On this episode of Defining Wealth Beyond the Numbers, I sat down with Dr. Debi Lynes, counselor, educator, and interior designer for a conversation about wellness, environment, and the connection between spaces we inhabit and the lives we lead. Drawing from a unique career that spans education, interior design, counseling, and health services, Debi shares how she developed her philosophy around the impact our surroundings have on our mental and emotional well-being. Also, the importance of intentional living and how design can support healthier, more fulfilling lives. We hope you enjoy this conversation about wellness, purpose, environment, and defining wealth beyond the numbers. Welcome, Debi. We have Debi Lynes here. Dr. Debi Lynes, thank you for being here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
We always start with the same question is, what was your first job?
Ooh, what was my first job? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think my first job growing up, I was the oldest of four children.
Okay.
So my first job was being the oldest of four children because
Keeping them in line.
keeping them in line. Yes. Raising little brothers and sisters is never easy.
No.
But honestly, that probably was my first job. I think as an oldest child, I had the responsibility sometimes of watching the kids and, making sure nobody beat each other up to to where we all got in trouble.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Exactly. And then probably after that, I did a lot of babysitting. My dad's a cardiologist, and so I worked in his office, and that was a real treat. We would go with him to the hospital on rounds, and then we would come back and go to his office, and we had I'll never forget. It's pretty interesting. Not really, but my dad was a cardiologist, like I said, and so he would do EKGs. All four of us spent our time, we were probably 11 and up, mounting at the time, hand mounting EKGs. You would read the lead and then you would mount it in like a file folder.
Wow.
Random thought.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder how that translated somewhere down the road that helped you out, but that's pretty interesting.
Organization.
There you go. I like that.
Time management.
Yep.
Yeah, I think those two things specifically.
That's great. And then what about from there? Give me your path a little bit.
I don't really have a path. I think what I learned really quickly is that life is really messy.
That's true.
And for me, messy isn't a bad thing. It's kind of, you've seen the stickers, like coloring outside the lines kind of thing. So it's been very circuitous. It's not been linear at all.
Okay. That's interesting. So you obviously have learned a lot in that process, right? So just after you started doing the work with your dad and cardiologist, I mean, now you're doing interior design, right? That's one thing. You do clinical psychology. So tell me how those things combine.
It's really interesting. When I went to college, I went to Miami of Ohio. Yay. And
Wally Zerbiak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And at Miami, I studied learning disabilities and behavioral disorders. So I started out in teaching and education, which I think for anyone who doesn't know what they want to do is probably the best major ever because it prepares you for a lot of different things. And I went from that straight into design with a real good friend of mine. And we did a company called Small Walls because we all had little children by that point. And we designed kids' rooms.
Interesting.
And so I wasn't really a designer, but we designed kids' rooms.
Interesting.
From that, again, because my dad was a doc, I went to the hospital, and it was at a time in the 70s when hospitals were trying to deinstitutionalize. Okay, they wanted to make hospitals less clinical and more user-friendly, patient-friendly, personal. Exactly.
Okay.
And so the administration was like, well, do you think you could design our birth center? Do you think we can design our pediatrics? And I was in Cincinnati at the time. And I was like, sure, I can do that. I do design, right? Not.
I'll get it done.
I'll get it done. And so my friend and I decided we went back into class after class after class. And because it was commercial, we had to do ADA compliance and, fire codes. And you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you just do it.
But you figure it out as you go along.
Well, yeah, because you do it from a lived experience. And so with that, I then was grandfathered in to the ASIDs and to be a designer.
Okay.
And so that was kind of a great introduction to work. And then in between that, this is again circuitous. In between that, Betty Rasbottom this was the time of the Silver Palette Cookbook in New York.
Okay.
Where everything was very she and garnishes, and you had to be able to make carrot ladders, right? And blooming onions and things like that. So I took a lot of culinary classes and ended up, when I moved down to Hilton Head, teaching cooking, teaching culinary arts.
You have done a lot.
It's embarrassing.
No, that's great.
They all segue together if you really want to know
you
the
make
truth.
it segue, right? Interesting.
And that went on to parlaying that into doing design and doing that for 30 years. And then when I was 40, I went back and got a master's and a doctorate in psych.
Wow.
And sort of thinking that I would be doing the psychology of spaces and places and health and wellness. Again, circling back to the beginning.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you like a lot of challenges.
I like growth.
And overcoming them. Right?
I like growth.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, I know.
I don't, what drives me nuts is just sitting still. Now, I can relax.
Oh, yeah.
But sitting still is what drives me crazy. I get depressed from that. So I just have to keep moving forward. Right. So with that psychology, I'm sure it helps a lot with the design, like you were saying, but well, give me an example about where that could work. I guess it's when you were building and designing those offices in those hotel rooms. I'm sorry, the hospital rooms.
Actually, we did do the Marriott, and I did in Bahamas, and I did a really super fun little hotel there.
But you got to know what people like, right? That's the part that comes in that sticks out to me.
You know what's funny about that? No, I
Interesting.
didn't. I had to be a good listener.
Okay.
I had to understand. I had to be able to interpret if what they liked was really what they liked.
Interesting.
Okay, because I think some of us think we like something, and then
it happens a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
And then I do it, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't so great. So I think it was really learning to listen. And I think for me, Tom, also, it was being adaptable and fluid and dynamic. And you said, give you an example of where design and psych come together. In absolutely everything we do. You created an environment here in this studio. You've got something alive. You've got something that makes me feel comfortable. It's professional, but warm. All of those things matter.
They do.
I mean, our environment is sort of the unspoken thing that binds us and makes us feel comfortable or not. Again, fun fact, do you want your prisons to be inviting and warm? Not particularly. Do you? No. I want my prison to be somewhere that's efficient, but I don't want someone to feel comfortable enough to want to stay there. Is that fair?
Oh, that's fair. Now I get it. Okay.
See what I mean?
I like that.
You want your hospital to feel professional, but you also want the way to the departments to be really intuitive, because I'm scared. And so your environment plays this huge part in our world that a lot of us take for granted and don't even think about.
Yeah, I like that. Well, you just pointed out a couple of things that for us that I didn't even realize either. That's why we have Gustavo over here.
I know. Yes, there you go.
So have you had mentors during your life that have helped you along?
I think I am a collaborator. That's a better word. I'm a collaborator. I am don't function well as an island. I know what I know. I know what I don't know, and I love a good resource. And the interesting part about design and psych is I don't have to be the expert in all fields.
Nope.
Okay. When I was designing windows, for example, I would call in a seamstress and my window experts, and they would advise me as to what would sit right, what the best thing.
100%.
It's like
I have a consultant in my business.
right, and it's
Somebody to just run things by and
that's right. I don't have to know financially about investments. I can't be ignorant about it or forget it. Correct. But I want to be able to resource the best professionals. So I think that's probably, if there's one thing I'm good, I'm curious, and I'm a great resourcer.
Okay, that's great. So you do your job well by bringing in people
Yes.
who understand what they're doing.
Correct.
Also, and then being able to work with them.
Yes.
So do you think that's a very important skill if you're in your own business and you're an entrepreneur, obviously? So what type of skills do you think are needed in that?
I think whether you are in a company, a corporation, or an entrepreneur, I think it is imperative to have people that you work with and to be able to listen to different ideas objectively and not get so vested in my own point of view that I can't at least hear. And from a psychology, I do a lot with couples. I do a lot with kids and parents. And sometimes if I just hush and listen, okay, with an open mind and in a Ted Lasso curious but non-judgmental state of mind, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I just said it to the last guest. For me, there's a theory that I live by, and it's better to be interested than interesting.
Correct.
Because you learn so much. There are times where I've spent with people and they've talked 80% of the time, and me 20, and they've said, "Oh, that was a great conversation."
Right. Oh, for sure.
But that's how I want it,
Right.
right? Because I'm interested, because I'll learn so much more from them. And I also had it where I've been to, since I'm in finance, I've been to a lot of financial seminars, right? And I remember learning one thing, and it had absolutely nothing to do with finance. The first speaker said, find someone you disagree with and read them every day.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's amazing, because you'll get one of two things. Either you'll realize that your thought was right, or, wow, maybe I'm not so right. Maybe there are other ways to think about this.
Well, I wonder if finance is kind of like science. The thing I love about science is that it is adaptable and changeable. I mean, I can think I know and do a practice now, and then, 5 years later have to shift it or say, you know what, maybe that isn't such a great thing for now. And so I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and in finance, behaviors are important too, because in the old days, it was all about what you learned in the textbooks, right?
Okay,
This financially is the right thing to do. But now it's also about behaviors. So a new topic is coming up called behavioral finance.
Okay, interesting.
Because people don't always do the things you think that they're supposed to do, the rational thing. When you talk about investments, they make irrational decisions. So if you can understand those and you can listen and you can adapt to those, you can help that client.
I have a question then. So for me, and I'm just throwing, I don't know what I don't know, but for me, wisdom is sort of a combination of logic. This is my neuropsych, logic and emotion, which is my behavior.
Yeah.
So if I can put those two together,
100%.
Would that help in finance too? Because you said
100%.
logic, but okay, so it is sort of a
Oh, it's definitely a combination, no doubt, because money is very emotional.
yeah. You know what's funny that you said that is in my practice, you can talk about a lot of things with a lot of people a lot of the time, and romance, intimacy, all these things. Okay, fine, great. Finances. Oh my goodness. You don't realize why.
It's an emotional thing. People from when they were younger, they've developed certain traits, and it was based upon money. If you didn't have much while you're younger, maybe you want to hold on to it. And your spouse or your significant other might have lived an opposite life. So there's a lot to go on there. It's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. So what I hear you say is it can kind of impact my behaviors and what I do or not do with my money moving forward.
So I have an off-the-cuff question for you.
Okay.
Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I think by nature, I'm very introvert. I think by practice, I'm an extrovert.
Yep.
And I think all three of my kids are that way.
Okay.
And what I mean, if I'm going to define it, I think introvert is I try to take my cues from internally, and I like to, as much as I like to bloviate and talk, I really like to think and and process occasionally too. And I will tend to, I may talk off the cuff because words can be playthings for me, but then I will definitely kind of reflect and do some.
And the reason why I asked that question is because we've known each other for a bit. You seem very extroverted to me. And I always realize that what people see from the outside
Right.
isn't always necessarily what's happening on the inside. So you get entrepreneurs and you're very entrepreneurial and people think, oh, she must be so extroverted. You know, I see her on TV. I've seen you do your own shows and all that. But that's actually not necessarily who that person is. They've learned to develop that part of them.
Correct.
Right? I'm the same way.
Do you have how's your social bandwidth?
I would say to answer that question, I'm going to answer my question. I am an extroverted introvert.
Okay. Oh, well said. We're omniverts.
Yeah, I guess that's,
I just read that on Instagram. It was so cool. I was like, okay, like herbivores, carnivores.
as an entrepreneur, what type of skills do you think are important for that?
I think we talked about that before. I think a curiosity, growth mindset are two. I think you have to be, it's funny. I think I'm a pessimist by nature.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
And I wear that badge proudly. Because what that looks like for me is, I'm not always rainbows and butterflies. I'm basically looking for caveats in everything that I do. Okay.
Interesting.
I know. Who knew? Right?
How do you recognize that? That's pretty
Well, I'm old. I mean, I'm 72. I'll be 73. And I mean, I think at that point you're like, well, what is this?
But it's very
about me?
self-reflecting, which not many people can do.
Well, because we put a label on these words. Everyone's like, I'm an what is it? Optimist. My glass is half full. Oh, hell no.
Well, it depends on the circumstances
Right,
too,
exactly.
right?
Well, and see, for me,
We evolve.
Right. I think it's just, I call it real. But is it? I don't know.
Well, if you believe it is.
On that day, on that minute. Some people sometimes.
Now, this is a podcast about wealth,
Correct.
right? So I always end it off with the question of, how has your definition of wealth evolved over the years? So when you first started working, when you were helping your dad as a cardiologist, and to now, has it evolved? Is it the same? Tell me.
You know, when I saw that question, because what you do is you sort of give us an outline of what we may be talking about. And I saw, what is wealth? How do you define it? And how has it evolved? I was like, oh, I'm the worst person for this podcast because I look at wealth in different domains. You know, from
Explain. I like that. Give me.
So from a relationship point of view, I feel so wealthy and I feel pretty successful. And I still work hard on building and developing my wealth in that area. From my work and education, I will be in debt until I die from my education, and I wear that proudly. From a work, as I've gotten older, building up a nest egg of safety and security has become much more important. I wish I'd done it at 30, and now looking at my kids in reflection, it's funny because they are doing what I didn't do.
Okay.
Is okay?
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
Right. And so I kind of push that also then into self-care. And how do I put myself in a financial position that I can take care of myself, maintain a standard of living that I want, and be willing and dynamic to adapt that as I get older.
Yep. Because life adapts.
Yeah, whether you want it to or not, it does. And I look forward to that. I really
Of course.
do.
Well, and that's probably why you've been able to adjust in different parts of your life because you look forward to those changes. Some people don't.
Right. Well, I told you, life is messy. Once I figured that out, everything was great. Really, isn't it?
Yeah, but it seems like you have organized mess.
Well, yes, that's true. On a good day. Sometimes it's just...
Well, look, I appreciate you coming in. It was a great conversation. I will see you around, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.